So I told the people last week about the Vatican junk box, and it really came out of that research I was doing with Matthew 23. I had found these manuscripts of Hebrew Matthew. George Howard found 9, and I had found 14, and I said, there's got to be more. And it turned out by the time we did that video, I believe we had 26, and later I found 2 more. But the process was I would get these microfilms, and I would put them on the analog reader, and I'm swirling them, looking through them. And one of these microfilms turned out it was in the Vatican, and it said miscellaneous. And I said, well, that's interesting. Let's see what's miscellaneous. And as I'm looking through, I'm realizing this is a junk box. They have a loose page.
What do you mean by junk box?
Well, I was once told by a mechanic, when you put a car back together and you're left with 3 extra bolts, you just throw them in the junk box. So this is what would happen in the Vatican. Somebody was reading a manuscript, maybe 10 manuscripts. They'd put them back in the shelf, and they'd see on the table there was an extra page left there. And what do we do with this? We don't know where it goes. We put it in the junk box. And
these are ancient manuscripts that pages do come out and
all the time.
Don't know what to do with them.
They open up a book nobody's opened up for 200 years, and there's worms in there eating the book, and all kinds of things are happening, right? And there's mold, all kinds of problems you're having with manuscripts. And so they would put these pages in the junk box. So I'm looking at this microfilm at the National Library of Israel, and it's a microfilm of a junk box. Now, back then I only had it black and white. What's new and why I'm able to share this now publicly is now I've got the high resolution color images because of this worldwide project of digitizing Hebrew manuscripts. And I'm going to show people here for the first time some of the other pages from the junk box. So here, for example, we have a page from the junk box, and you can see it says Bibliotheca Apostolica Vaticana, the Apostolic Library of the Vatican. And this is some page of some document that was fell out of a book or was torn out of a book, and it's some sort of Kabbalistic work or something.
Yeah, it's got a star.
Yeah, it's got some weird drawings on it. It's some kind of Kabbalistic document. Here's another page from some other book completely. It's actually an early printed book. And this is a book of how to teach children. It's got the alphabet with all the different combinations of the vowels. And there's a picture here of the very simple wood etching, they call these, where the teacher has, spoil the rod, spare the rod, spoil the child, it's expressing. And it talks here about the young boy. And it's literally a children's book that fell out of some book, early book they had, or early printed book. Put it in the junk box.
Yeah, so it's Hebrew, so it's not anything that concerns them.
Well, even if it concerns them, they don't know what to do with it, right? Because they had, up until the last decade or so, the Hebrew manuscripts in the Vatican had never been cataloged. It was scholars from the National Library of Israel that went to the library for the first time and cataloged it from the Institute of Microfilmed Hebrew Manuscripts. Nobody had ever cataloged it because they couldn't read Hebrew. Right? Occasionally they'd look at a book here, a book there. They had some idea it was there, but they didn't have a systematic idea. Here's another page, which is from a book in German. I don't even know if it's doing in there, if it's even a Jewish book. This was just a junk box where they put stuff. Most of them are Hebrew books. And as I'm looking through the junk box, I'm seeing hundreds of pages from many different books. And all of a sudden I come across a page, and I look at this and I say, wait a minute. That's a gospel in Hebrew. And first I found Luke, and there were 3 pages of Luke, and then I found a single page from the Gospel of John. Can I read that to the people, what it says? People, this is the first time this is being shown publicly to the world. I don't know where this came from, other than that it's from the Vatican. Where the Vatican got it from, I don't know. What's really cool is at the bottom of the page.
It's just one page.
It's just one page from John. At the bottom of the page, you have what they call a hanging word. It's a single word without vowels. That is the first word from the next page.
And without the vowels, that tells you that it continues on to the next page.
Oh, yeah. So what they would do is they put the first word of the next page at the bottom of the previous page. So you turn the page and you know what to look for. And if the pages aren't in order, that's very helpful, of course. So we know there was another page. We just don't have it. So let me read you for the first time from the Gospel of John in the Vatican Library, from the junk box of the Vatican Library. I mean, this truly is a treasure, right? There's movies about things like this, like, American Treasure, and I hate to say it, but the Da Vinci Code, where there's some treasure somewhere we're going to find, and I found it in a microfilm of the junk box in the Vatican, and this has never been talked about publicly as far as I know, and certainly when I found it, nobody knew about this around 17 years ago or so. Here's what it says. I'll read it in Hebrew and then translate it. Habsorah kedosha shel Yeshua HaMashiach Kifi Yochanan, the holy gospel of Yeshua the Mashiach, according to Yochanan. Perek Rishon, chapter 1. Bereshit haya hadavar, v'hadavar haya etzel ha'elohim, v'ha'elohim hu haya hadavar. In the beginning was the word, the davar, and the word was next to Elohim. Now, that word next to is the Hebrew word etzel. You might be able to translate that as with. I think it's a bit of a stretch.
With is in King James.
Right, with, and the word was with God. Here it's etzel, which is next to. And I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. Well, you have this verse in the New Testament. It's in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 20, which he worked in Christ, which he raised him from the dead, and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly places.
Ah, that's very close to.
I gotta wonder.
Next to.
I gotta wonder. It's literally next to, right? At the right hand. Hebrews 8:1. Now, this is the main point of the things we are saying. We have such a high priest who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. So I gotta wonder if that's what's going on in this Hebrew edition of this Hebrew text of John that I've discovered in the Vatican. And it goes on and it says...
that goes back to the Psalms. Seated at my right hand till I make thy
Psalm
enemies
110.
thy footstool.
Okay. Wow. So, in the beginning, okay, we read that. V'Elohim hu haya davar, zeh haya bereshit etzel ha'elohim. This was in the beginning next to Elohim. Of course, Elohim is the Hebrew word for God. It says... כל הדברים נעשו בו, ומבלעדיו לא נעשה דבר מכל אשר היה. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made from all that was. בו היו החיים, in him was life. והחיים היו אור האנשים, and life was the light of men. והאור היה זורח באפלות, והאפלות לא הכילוהו. And the light was shining forth in the darkness, and the darkness could not contain it, meaning the light. Vayihi ish echad shaluach me'et Elohim u'shmo Yochanan, and there was a certain man sent from God, and his name was Yochanan. That's Hebrew for John. And it goes on and it says, Zeh ba be'edut laha'id hala'or leman asher ya'aminu hakol ba'avuro. This one came in testimony to testify concerning the light, in order that they would believe everything because of him. Hu lo haya davar. He was not the light, but only testifying concerning the light, meaning John. It was true light, to shed light on every man who enters into this world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him. And the world did not recognize him. Ba el moladato mamash ubnei beito lo kibluhu. He came to his true homeland or birthplace, and the children of his house did not accept him. L'chol asher kiblu ma'aminim bishmo natan memshala shiyu bnei ha'elohim. And to all those who accepted him and believe in his name, he gave dominion that they would be sons of Elohim. Asher hem lo midam velo michefetz habasar adam. For they were not born out of blood and not out of the desire of flesh. Velo michefetz adam noladu ki me'et ha'elohim, not out of the desire of men, but from Elohim. I mean, this is, and then it ends. Like, what's next? I don't know.
The last word on the page.
The last word is Elohim, which means God, or the one God, the true God. And then it ends, and we don't know what's next. And who knows if that's someone. I mean, think about it. The conspiracy always is the Vatican's hiding it. No, quite literally, the Vatican was so incompetent, they don't even know what they have. They had no idea. It's just in the junk box. Now, again, is this the original Hebrew? I don't know. All I know is this is a Hebrew. I mean, this is what we dreamed of as a scholar, certainly. You dream of finding something like this, the lost Gospels in the Vatican. And here we have 4 pages from a lost Gospel in the Vatican. And it's not that they were hiding it to be malicious. They just didn't know.